We're here on Nextera on the New York State grades 3 through 8 testing program question sampler. Once I get to this page, which I get to through my district bookmark folder in the upper left corner, I'm going to go to the gray bar in the center that has the question sampler selection box. I go into the box and I click the subject. For the first one, I'm going to be looking at ELA, so I click it and a second box will appear. From here, I decide the grade level I'd like to practice with, and I'm going to go to grade 5. When I get to grade 5, a test selection box appears. I click the arrow and it gives me 3 options for test samplers, and it gives me an ELA response box sampler for the students to use just to practice typing in extended responses. I'm going to click Sampler 1. When I click Sampler 1, it will allow me to click a Start Test button, and it will take me into the first part of the test. The first part of the test shows testing accommodations that are available to students if they're on their accommodation plans. For the purposes of this demo, I'm not going to click any of them. I'm going to click Continue and move on. From here is where we see our directions. The first one says that the directions will help us learn how to take the test. Click the arrow and it takes us to the second. Now, when you're looking at the second one, you're going to notice that the check mark, the green check mark, means that you're currently online. And I can see that in the upper left corner. If there's a red X there, don't worry. The responses are still going to be saved and it'll reconnect before submitting the test. The next part is our directions. If I want to see the directions at any point during the test, I just click that directions button. And lastly, if I want to sign out or pause the test without submitting it, I click the sign out button. I'm going to go to the next arrow, and that'll bring me to the next box. The next box points out my review screen. If I click the review button, it's in the upper left-hand corner. It's going to see our progress on the test, and it'll allow me to quickly move between questions. So this really helps if I'm bookmarking a test, or at the end of the test, if I am missing some of my answers, it'll show there. My arrows, they're my move between different question arrows in the test. So if I use the caret pointing to the right, it takes me forward. If I use the caret to the left, it takes me back. There's a split screen control in the ELA test, and some of the items may be split into 2 screens. And we want you to be able to easily go back and forth between those screens and to resize the pages. So we know that on the left-hand side is where normally the text is, and sometimes you might want that bigger. So if you click the arrow pointing right in the center, it's actually going to make that left side larger for you, and vice versa. If you click the left arrow, it'll make the right side bigger. So definitely have the students play with that a little bit. If I click the arrow again, it's going to show me some other controls we have down at the bottom. We have a zoom control that allows us to make the text larger and smaller. We have a bookmark control. The bookmark allows us to leave a mark on the page or question that we want to go back and revisit, which we can do in the review section at the end or any time during the test. And then there's a note section. If I click the note, it allows me to leave a note for myself or take notes as I'm reading any of the text. We also have some other test tools that are on every test, whether a student has accommodations or not. The first one is a highlighter tool. That's part of the test. Just remember that when the student clicks the highlighter tool, they click it to use it, and when they are finished with it, they have to click it again to turn it off. There's also an answer eliminator, which will cross off all of the answers that they know are not correct. And then there is a line reader, and that's used to block certain parts of the test. My next tutorial will go over those in more detail. When I'm done, I simply click End Directions, and when I'm finished with that, we're ready to start the test.